Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Marysville November 20th regular board meeting. Can we get a call to order, please?
Mr. Ferguson?
Here.
Mr. Keller?
Here.
Ms. Savage?
Here.
Mr. Smith?
Here.
Mr. Keck is absent.
Can you please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can I get a motion to adopt the agenda for this evening?
So moved.
I'll second.
We've got a first and a second. Can we take a vote?
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson?
Yes.
Ms. Savage?
Yes. First thing we want to do this evening is some recognition. We have the Employee of the Month, Mr. Howard, Dr. Howard, excuse me.
Thank you so much, Ms. Savage. This is always an honor to recognize outstanding employees, and tonight, certainly no exception in the least. So we have a recognition here. I'd love to read this to all in attendance. Whereas Deidre Brown is an employee. Of the Marysville Exempted Village School District, working as a building aide at Creekview Intermediate School, and whereas Deidre has served the school district with much enthusiasm, dedication, and commitment in an effort to provide the needs of the district, and whereas Deidre has been nominated by her colleagues as Classified Employee of the Month, citing in their nominations that Dee Brown is the most up person I have ever met. She brings joy and sunshine into our building every day. Her good morning to staff and students echo as she enters the building each day. Her kindness and compassion towards students and staff is remarkable. Dee is always ready to lend a helping hand, whatever the need. Her bubbly attitude and playful sense of humor bring joy to our Creekview family. She goes above and beyond for students. She's always bringing positive energy inside and outside of the classroom. Dee always goes above and beyond. She makes every person and student at Creekview feel special and always has a positive attitude and smile on her face. Dee goes above and beyond the roles of her job. She creates a positive environment for everyone she's around. Dee goes way beyond her role as an aide. She is often the first to volunteer to help out with anything. She is there for the students in all ways. Congratulations, Deidre Brown. was fun.
Okay, now we're going to move into the presentations for this evening. And our first presentation is on artificial intelligence by Chris Campbell and Mark Gallagher.
Good evening. Thank you all for having us here. I'm Chris Campbell. I am the Director of Teaching and Learning for the district. And I have with me Mark Gallagher. He is the Director of Continuous Improvement. And we are here to talk to you guys tonight a little bit about artificial intelligence and how we are implementing that in our school district. Oh, didn't realize the clicker was right there. Thank you. Sorry. So really, we're going to start by like why AI and why now. Really, when we looked into AI, we started the journey last year talking to some principals, admins, and just the questions started to arise. We started seeing videos. We started getting excited about what the future would bring and really how it aligns strongly to our strategic direction. So as you look here, you know, we're a personalized learning district. We believe in student-centered instruction, and really using generative AI can help us personalize learning for every student. It's going to help teachers adapt content and create pathways for each student. We talk about differentiation. It'll help us strengthen differentiation and give targeted supports to teachers. It's going to provide more precise academic and behavioral supports as well. As we talk about data in this district, which we know is very important, also part of our strategic direction would be, you know, we can use more useful and actionable data. Teachers a lot of time have the data in front of them, but how do they use the data? So having faster access and using that to differentiate will give them a clearer picture of instructional support for them. Also, empowering administrators. The job of principal and administrators is becoming more and more challenging every single year with what the expectations are from the state, what we want to do as far as it happening inside the classrooms, and really help administrators streamline their workflow, increase their capacity to lead the building and be more of instructional leaders and provide that support that's needed. And really, support and strengthen educators is a very important thing that AI can help us do. With that, it's going to reduce those routine tasks that teachers are doing on a daily basis and really give the increased time, going back to that personalization, for impactful instruction. And then really, at the end, we know that it's the future. And so when we talk about empowering our students to be future ready, when we look at that, what universities are asking for, we know what other jobs and companies are doing. Our students need to be ready to use AI, and they need to be prepared. And for us to do that, we started this journey. I'm going to share with you right now a quick video. This is something that we shared at our admin retreat back in May. It is a Khan Academy video. I'm hoping that they can run it for me.
Hi, my name is Sal Khan. I'm the founder of Khan Academy, and I'm also the author of a new book about artificial intelligence in education called Brave New Words. And OpenAI invited myself and my son Imran here to try out some of their new technology. And so we're curious about how good it might be at tutoring someone in math on Khan Academy. So let's get it started. It's loading up. All right, make sure it can see our screen.
Actually, in this format,
Hello there.
I can't.
I'm here with my son, and I'd love you to tutor him on this math problem, but don't give him the answer. You can ask questions and nudge him in the right direction, but I really want to make sure he understands it himself. And he's here in the room, so you can talk to him directly.
Of course, I'd be happy to help. Let's look at the problem together. Can you first identify which sides of the triangle are the opposite, adjacent, and hypotenuse relative to angle alpha?
All right, so I'm pretty sure this is the angle alpha right here, right?
Perfect. That's correct. Now, looking at the triangle, which side do you think is the hypotenuse?
Really,
Remember the hypotenuse?
I'm not totally sure. I think it might be this one, but I really am not sure. This side AC.
You're close. Actually, side AC is called the adjacent side to the angle alpha. The hypotenuse is the longest side of a right triangle and is directly opposite the right angle. Can you find which one is the hypotenuse?
Oh, okay, I see. So I think the hypotenuse is this really long side from A to B. Would that be correct?
Exactly. Well done. Now that you've identified the hypotenuse, can you identify which side is the opposite side to angle alpha?
Okay, well, I mean, you told me earlier that this was the adjacent side, and I know that's the hypotenuse, so I'm guessing that this side, BC, is the opposite side.
Great deduction. That's absolutely correct. Now that you've identified all the sides relative to angle alpha, do you remember the formula for finding the sine of an angle in a right triangle?
Yeah, I know that the sine is equal to the opposite over the hypotenuse.
Perfect. That's absolutely right. Now, can you apply that formula to find side alpha in the triangle using the lengths of the sides that we've identified?
Okay, so, I mean, you told me that 7, this side BC, is the opposite side. And then you said that the hypotenuse is the longest side, so that would be this side AB, which is 25. So would the answer be 7 over 25?
Excellent work. That's correct. Sine alpha equals 7 over 25. You did a great job identifying the sides and using the sine formula. If you have any more questions, feel free to ask.
As you can see, when we looked at this video, and this video is over a year old. When we put it up, it had already been out for a little while. AI is changing quickly. It's adapting fast. And so just this and what it can do, the power it can have in the classroom was really intriguing for us. And so we decided we wanted to take this journey. And so I'm going to turn it over to Mark and kind of let him give you a background of where we've been and where we're going.
Let's see if I can. Wonderful. So as we started to undertake this work, we quickly realized one of the things that we had to do was begin level setting our staff and administrators to undertake this work. And so one of the first questions we sought to answer was, what the heck even is generative AI? And we like the IBM definition, which I have here, which is that generative AI, sometimes called Gen AI or GAI, is artificial intelligence that can create original content such as text, images, video, audio, or even software code in response to my natural language prompts that I provide to the generative AI instrument. Oops. And we also know and established that generative AI relies upon these very sophisticated machine learning models that we call deep learning models and algorithms in order to simulate the learning and decision-making processes of the human mind. And we know that these models work by identifying and encoding patterns and relationships in huge amounts of data, millions and millions and millions of rows of data, when using that information to understand the user's natural language requests. So like how, my manner of speaking, as an example, or their questions to respond with relevant new content. And so we set out to, how do we teach all of the individuals in organizations how to use these things? And after getting that initial definition established, we very quickly realized we probably need to level set some common terminology as well. So I have some of those here. And we're in the process of introducing these terms to our steering committees and our staff. So for example, how generative AI models are trained. What is prompt engineering? When you hear prompting or prompt engineering, what does that mean? What does it mean to have bias in the outputs in the training sets? Or what does it mean to have the AI hallucinate and receive false or nonsensical information? What does that mean as a user? What can that mean for staff? What can that mean for kids, et cetera? We also very quickly realized that generative AI is ubiquitous. It is here to stay. It is everywhere. And we know that it's, based upon previous research on various technological innovations, significantly outpacing the adoption rates for other technologies across the globe. So I have a chart here, and my orange dashed line is the current arc or trajectory for generative AI adoption across the globe, with our little orange dot right there representing where we're currently at. So we're about 2 years into mass consumer adoption, and roughly 40% of the global population is reporting generative AI. to compare that to other technologies, look at the curve for smartphones, tablets, even microwaves, and we are adopting generative AI at lightning speed globally right now. So in terms of an educational standpoint, since we have this rapid emergence of all these different tools, it's being implemented and infused across a number of sectors, it's absolutely reshaping fundamentally what education looks like. And so we want to make sure we're out in front of this. So what does it mean for students? We often think of generative AI as being extremely adult-centric, but there are also incredible applications for differentiated and highly tailored student supports and learning experiences, like we just saw through like Conmigo, the video we just watched. But we do know that these advantages are also counterweighted by challenges as well, and we have to educate ourselves and educate ourselves in order to educate our students with those foundational AI skills, so that we can continue to hone our critical thinking skills, that curiosity, that inquisitiveness, so that AI isn't just a tool, so to speak, but it becomes a powerful instrument for learning in the long run. We've also, as part of our preparation works for our rollout throughout the organization, we have done some surveying with our staff and with a group of student stakeholders as well. And I wanted to show you some of those results. Oops. In the staff survey, we had 100 participants. Majority representation from K through 4, but some of the highlights were that roughly 80% of our staff members are using some form of digital assistant, whether that's like Google Assistant or Siri or Amazon Alexa, and roughly 80% are using some form of generative AI, whether that's ChatGPT, Gemini, etc., with ChatGPT being the overwhelming choice for the majority of our staff at almost 80%. Then we had some other individual survey items we took a look at, and I'm going to highlight a few of those here. One of the items we asked our staff was, which of the following describes your attitude towards generative AI? With 1 representing highly unfavorable and 5 representing highly favorable, the majority of our staff have a favorable view towards generative AI. And then we also asked about their level of agreement with the following statement: AI poses ethical challenges in educational settings. 1 being strongly disagree, 5 being strongly agree, and about 48% of our staff agree that generative AI poses some kind of ethical challenge in education. And then the last staff item I wanted to highlight was, to what extent do you believe AI will impact education in the next 5 years? And almost 90% of our staff said yes, generative AI is going to impact education. So all of our data, whether it's the research base or what we were even asking our own internal staff members, is in alignment that generative AI is here and we have to do something about it because it's going to affect education in some capacity. So what did kids say? And we had a little over 475 students in the 7 through 12 space respond to this survey. And I had one really interesting item that I wanted to highlight here, which was, which of the following describes your attitude towards generative AI as a student body? And roughly 35% of our students had a very unfavorable view towards the use of AI versus about 34% with a favorable view. So even when we look at where our kids are at relative to the adults, we're kind of at different places right now. And so there's work to be done in that space. Okay, I'm going to turn it back over to Chris Campbell.
Thanks, Mark. So the next thing is really just showing you where we are. I told you that we really developed that steering committee last school year when some of the questions started to arise. We then determined the focus in the district really was going to be how we are going to adopt this and adapt it for education. Our admin retreat in June was this year, around AI and what that could look like in the classroom for administrators and coaches. And this school year, we started off really, during convocation, I presented during convocation that AI was something we would be focusing on this school year. I shared a video with the K-4 teachers and staff around our math framework and the K-12 Ohio Plan for Mathematics, and what that can do as far as educating, teaching staff, new future hires, what that might look like. And so my goal for them at that point was, or my challenge, I should say, for them was to investigate, try things, experience what may help you in the classroom, what may help you as a teacher or administrator. We have no student access. I've been working with Tom Powers in the IT department to make sure that that is locked down. So until we get to that point where we communicate with families, that is not something that we have allowed students to use yet. September, we did the surveys. You can see that on here. We had teacher and student surveys. In October, we had our first teacher and student committee meeting, which was interesting. We did the student steering committee was virtual, and then we had the teachers come in, and we ran them through different protocols for, around AI and what that might look like, and shared the data with them so they could see that as well. Right now, where we are, November and December, we've really dug in. We're looking at pilots. Currently, School AI is a product we're looking into. We're working and with a design partnership with them. That's actually started, the training started for them last week. This week was to allow teachers to get in and engage with it, and then we're going to kick it off where it's going to be at 2 buildings as they work through looking at this product for us. Does it meet our needs? What does it look like? School AI, obviously, it's school related. So it is designed to be used for educational purposes. And then the other part of that is training. So AI OWL is a training program that we're using. It is through the Ohio Tech Cred grants, we can get funding for that. And so I'm starting with a group of 15 individuals, predominantly our instructional coaches and some administrators that are part of these pilot buildings. We'll do that training. If all goes well, I'd like to do it again after the first of the year in February. Yes, I will highlight that School AI is constrained. It is specifically for academics. It's for schools, so it does not allow any of our data sources outside. It doesn't use anything we do currently use is that way. ChatGPT, we have a pro version, even Gemini. It does not share any of our data we're putting in there to train its learning models. School AI, we have agreements with them as far as sharing data, what that might look like, so it's all compliant on that end. In January, we're going to go back to our teacher and student committee, the work we started. We're going to now talk about the guardrails. Obviously, that's going to be important, what that might look like in our district. They did that work initially. We've got things to bring back to them where we can lay that out. March, review the guardrails and policy with community stakeholders. We want to bring the community in, talk about what that might look like. When we did our community meetings last year, the student learning one, a lot of AI discussion came up. And so there was a lot of interest in that group to talk about it, and we brought them all together at the end of the year. That was something that predominantly came out of there is what AI might look like in schools. And so we want to bring that to them so they can see where we are. And then in June, there'll be a board approval of AI policy. Obviously, the state of Ohio is requiring school districts by July 26 to adopt an AI policy in their schools. So we started the work earlier so we can get to that. By 26, 27, we would like to be able to roll out all of our guardrails to students and staff, continue that professional learning piece, and hopefully we'll have a tool that we've landed on as we go forward with using that in the classrooms around the district. The other part I forgot to mention was School AI and Power Buddy is another one we're piloting. That's part of a Power School suite that they use or they have developed that we can use with Schoology and Power School, and Tom Powers is leading that part of the work. We haven't kicked that one off yet. That starts soon. And then the other piece that I did mention we are working with School AI as a design partnership. Part of that also is an admin dashboard, looking at data and how that can help the admins in the buildings, but also how it can help teachers, get that data at their fingertips really quickly. Anything else? That is all we have. So if you guys have any questions, we would be happy to answer the questions.
I'll start you out. So explain to me how we're going to limit the AI tool that the students are using and maybe differentiate between like a K-6 model versus a 7-12 model. And in the video, for example, it showed the dad said, you know, don't tell him the answer. How are we going to incorporate that in so our students aren't just using it to tell them the answers and they're not learning anything?
So that's a great question. I'll address the first part. So right now we're looking at a model that would allow students 2 through 12. We don't know if it's going to be the same product or if it's something that would be changed depending on the grade levels. That is the reason why we're doing these pilots, to go through and kind of address those. When we were doing the training with School AI last week, some of the questions came up about, is it working for the math department at the high school? Is it meeting the needs? So that's kind of what we're looking at to see if that's going to support and help our teachers. And so that's all part of this piloting process. And then the other part you ask about, you know, how do we make sure it's not giving the answers? And that's why I kind of pointed out that video. That video is over a year old. And so a lot of these companies, including School AI, they're working on tutoring platforms that are designed specifically for schools. That was kind of, I think that was a kickoff with Conmigo, because Khan Academy and ChatGTP collaborated to create a tutoring space. And so I think they were showing the power of what it could do together. But specifically, I mean, we even use like a notebook LM, which we did training on this morning for our admins, and you can put in there that you want it to be a tutorial type response. And so it's not giving the answers, it's asking questions first. As you ask it something, it's going to say, okay, what do you know about this topic? So you can start feeding what you know, and then it's going to start helping you, support you in that way, more of a learning model than a just, here's the information, go with it. But again, that's something we would be looking at to make sure whatever we use and whatever we put in front of our kids is going to be supported in the way it's academic in nature. It's not taking away that critical thinking. We talk a lot about that. We talked a lot about that with our steering committee. How do we continue to make sure students are developing that critical thinking skills? And we want AI to help and support and develop, but we also want to make sure that we're not losing that. Did I answer everything for you?
Yes. I have a second question. How are we going to assure that all teachers are informed on how to use this tool? Because I don't have any objection to the teachers using it, because I think when we're requiring them to differentiate, sometimes for several different levels in a class, I can understand where this would be extremely useful. But I bet you there's a very distinct line between, and I hate to say this, the age group of people that feel comfortable using this and people that are hesitant to use this. How can we assure that all teachers, not just the coaches, but all teachers are getting trained?
So with using the products that we're piloting, School AI, we had training for the teachers. So they came in and they worked with us to train them on how to use School AI. The AI OWL training is a train the trainer model. And so it is to teach our coaches to go back to the classrooms, go back into their buildings. That's why I'm asking, inviting the administrators as well, the principals, because I think they need to know that too, how they can support their teachers as instructional leaders in their building. It's not just on the coach, it's a common message. And that's really why I'm starting with them first, to make sure we get it across the district, have that common message. This is how you're gonna help support your building teachers, and make sure we have that across the district, K-12 in all of our buildings.
Thank you for your presentation. I do have a few questions. So you said, you're mentioning that the staff are going to go through a pilot program. Can you give a tangible example? Let's just say a math teacher in high school. Describe that pilot. Where are they using it? Are they taking learning standards and putting it, or I guess walk me through, give me an example of how they use it.
So that's a great question. So it'd be very different, and going back to what Nan said, it's going to look different depending on the age level. It's going to look a lot different depending on the grade level. So, when we look at what could be useful at the 7-12 space, where there's less restrictions on curriculum, a teacher would be able to design a space, almost like you saw here in the video, where it's not talking or interacting, but you could create a space that's going to help tutor a kid through some mathematics problems. We have our coaches, our high school coach was already trying to do some of that stuff and working on that using just open AI right now, ChatGPT, Gemini, she was doing that. But it could help support that tutoring aspect of it where you can present a problem, work through that problem with a student and have those constraints and parameters. As Mark mentioned, the prompt engineering, what you're asking for when we talk about, and I don't know your guys' knowledge base of what generative AI looks like, but all of these have what they call a project, a gem, or in school AI, they call it spaces. And so you basically put some parameters around it. You design this, you design a space or a project that's going to help kids walk through that. So in the math situation, that's what we would see, something like that. At the elementary level, it may look a lot different just because based on what their needs are and what they're doing. We talk a lot about OST writing, okay, and what that could use for a student. But when we get to the teacher side of it, Curriculum 712, there's no state laws about what they should be using. We do have very confined programs we should be using at the K-5 space for ELA. And so I don't want them using that to create curriculum unless it's our curriculum that we're differentiating. So one of the things we're looking at in these pilots is ensuring that we can take what we have in-house, put it into the AI, and it's going to be pulling from our resources, not out in what I like to call the wild, but just out on the internet and pulling things in that may not be aligned to our high quality instructional materials, because that's really important. 712 doesn't have those same restrictions, and they also don't have as many curriculums to support them as they already are. So that can help them alleviate some of their workload by creating high quality instructional materials that they can use in their classroom. And they're the ones designing it, but it's supporting their design, or supporting them as they design it, I should say.
Understood. Is there a relationship, does Schoology work with like iReady? You know how there's a lot of assessments in iReady. Mm-hmm. Do they talk to each other or is it closed?
Say that again, I didn't hear the first part.
Sorry, I'm just using like an elementary school, like iReady Diagnostics. Mm-hmm. I'm guessing School AI, does it talk, or like could it be set up to talk to iReady?
I'm going to let Mark answer this since he is my data guy, but we just had a call today, so okay. He can answer that.
Yeah, so that actually is part of our design partnership with School AI, is to begin to work with their organization to establish what is meaningful for school districts, so that I have an AI instrument that can not only communicate with my iReady data, but also my attendance data and maybe clinic visits or other screening instruments or assessments that we use within the district, so that as a building administrator or an instructional coach, I can say, hey, or classroom teacher, hey, show me all of my students that are at not mastery on these particular standards, and also show me my students that have been chronically absent in the last 90 days. And so rather than having to go through all of these disparate data systems to track all that information down, it snaps together into one place for me. So rather than spending hours and hours trying to hunt for that, it's done in literally a matter of seconds and minutes.
Understood.
Yep.
When it comes to the requirements for like high dosage tutoring for reading or maybe soon to be math, is AI going to be a tool to provide high dosage tutoring, or will there still be a human element in that requirement?
So actually, they already have approved a lot of like interventions, like iReady, Learning Path is approved, Lexi is approved, the state of Ohio has approved those for reading interventions. And so when we look at some of the tutoring aspects are already, like the approved ones are, a lot of them are already online tutoring resources. So there's no list yet that says you can't, but also school districts have a lot of freedom when it comes to that. We're not required to adopt a certain program for the high dosage tutoring for math. Reading, we have things we have to use for intervention, but that can be happening in the classroom depending on what they're using. So again, I caution that we need to make sure that whatever we're using is aligned to our curriculums. And so that's our task as a district, working with these companies. I need to get my curriculum into the program so that it's using those resources, not something that's finding elsewhere.
Yeah, that's my, sorry, I have a couple more questions, if that's okay. That was my question, is understanding credible sources and having that be inputted when something's being generated. How are we as an educator or a student learning how to identify that source and make sure it's a credible source. Because, maybe this is not generative AI, but like Alexa, my kids ask Alexa, the Amazon, all kinds of questions. And I always tell them, like, you have to figure out what the source is behind that answer. So how does that work in this, whatever platform you're using?
So I can't answer exactly how it works because I don't know yet, because we're experiencing that right now. What I can answer, though, going back to like what I know how it works, if you're using like a space or a gem or whatever it may be, and you're designing to use those resources, then the goal would be for it's only to pull from those resources. Like if you use Notebook LM, you can tell Notebook LM that you're going to give it the resources and you're only using these things during this instructional time.
Got it.
But the challenge for us is to make sure that we can get that information in there. And what I will say, in my department, as we look at instructional materials and having those high quality instructional materials, what that looks like, what I want is my teachers in the district using not teachers pay teachers and going out there, things that may not be aligned, that are not considered by the state to be high quality. And I know this to be true in every school district. I was just at a conference and I was talking to administrators and they're struggling with the same thing. Finding those tools that's going to align to what we want. So they still have that autonomy to create what they need, and they still have the autonomy to say, okay, I want to do this in this lesson, but it's going to pull from our quality resources. I don't know how we can constrain it yet, though, because we haven't gotten that far.
And then my last question, for the sake of time, I do maybe want to have, before we come to the board policy in June, probably have a one-on-one conversation about some ethical and some other items as we go towards that board policy, kind of that guidance. Is there a guidance document at this point in time for AI, or is that coming?
The state has not. I don't think they've released it yet. As far as I know, they have not.
Our district has it? Okay.
No, we're working on ours now. We've looked at other school districts. We've looked at what other districts are doing, the policy, how that goes. But the state has not released their policy yet.
Understood. And we're waiting on the model policy.
We do have some communication prepared to go out to families and staff across the district. That is being prepped to go out sometime very soon.
My last question is, in July or in June, the CEO of Amazon put out a memo after they announced a lot of layoffs, and this is in regards to future ready, having our students be future ready. And pretty much Amazon's committed to developing AI, generative AI, and having agents, and it's going to require less people in the workforce. And he encouraged his staff to become fluent in AI. I know we're not ready yet, but how do we start thinking about how to prepare our students for the workforce, and what's the feedback loop that we have with our current employer base here to see how we can best prepare students for that current, how to be plugged in, to be marketable and valuable in tomorrow's workforce?
In all honesty, I would say that is a work in progress as we go forward. We don't know what we don't know yet. And so as the AI generative AI gets better, it gets more efficient, when we see whatever fields are opening up because of generative AI, then we will look at how we can ensure that our students are getting the most out of AI, but also what we're doing to prepare them for that future readiness part of, so maybe we're not going to be a lot of coding in the future because AI is going to be doing that for us, but what do they need instead? So I think it's a little murky for everybody because it's going so quickly. Even that video I shared, it's changed. It's moving very fast, and so we have to continue to stay on top of it and figure out what our kids are going to need. I don't have that answer right now. I don't think anyone really does yet, but we'll continue to explore and continue to look forward to the future and what we can do to help our students.
I have one more question. So you had mentioned behavioral supports, and that kind of got me thinking, what are we talking about? Just because we've struggled back since we all came back to school with behavioral issues, and we've been making a nice trend back down to kind of where we were before. I'm very confused how AI could help in that area.
I'll give you a specific use case that we have brought to light recently. So we designed a professional learning experience around how to reinforce desirable behavior and de-escalate crisis behaviors with our young people. When I deliver that professional learning experience, it's very difficult to give feedback to approximately 50 staff members in the room when you want them to actually demonstrate said skills. And so I created a number of AI instruments that allow me to press the content that we just learned to my learners, and they get to engage with digital students using the skills that they just learned on the front end of it. Then on the flip side, after we go through the training, I have another instrument that I can send their way, or another tool that allows them to go, okay, I've completed this training and here are things that are going on with this student, and it will actually build out a plan for you on how to reinforce the desirable behaviors, how to address the crisis behaviors with de-escalation techniques. It can even develop communications like a phone script if I need to have a difficult conversation with a family and I'm not really sure how to start there because maybe I'm a new teacher and I haven't had a conversation like that before. And it creates opportunities for that professional then to practice various aspects of that plan or the pieces that were put together. So that's just one limited use case for what that looks like, but we're in a spot where really you're only bound by your imagination. And so there are innumerable use cases that we haven't even thought of just quite yet. So at the early onset, there's an example for you, but I would say that we haven't even reached the final transformation of what this is going to look like in the end.
I don't really have a question. Thank you for the information. I just wanted to make a statement. I hope fact-checking will be a part of our procedures and policies because AI has been proven to be 45% inaccurate in regards to some topics. And then the other thing, I think it's a slippery slope to expose our children to some judgment and bias with AI. And so I think those two components go hand in hand. And I'm sure your committee's discussing that, but I just wanted to highlight that.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. We've looked at that. We've talked about that a lot and what that might look like for our students.
My fellow board members asked all the questions that I had, but I wanted to provide a little bit of perspective. I've been either in school or a teacher or board member, and I can remember a variety of things that really shook up or seemed to shake up education. One was allowing girls to wear slacks rather than dresses. Being able to wear jeans and shorts in school was another traumatic turn that teachers and administrators had to deal with. Thelma Carey, who was a longtime math teacher, went out and spent over $100 to get one of the first handheld calculators that did 4 functions or 5 functions, or very limited in what it could do. But just how to integrate the use of a calculator into the classroom kind of changed things. The adoption of computers was another one in terms of changing how instruction was, how you created your lessons, how you communicated with kids, just all those kinds of things. And the most recent one is AI. And I remember when there was an announcement early on that, we could do this. We had a program that could do things, artificial intelligence. And I went to our previous superintendent and I said, we need to figure out how to adopt this. We got to figure out how to add it to the curriculum and work it into the instruction, because it's like wearing slacks, jeans, and shorts, using a calculator, using a computer. It's not going to go away. And so rather than looking at it as a problem, I would encourage you, as it seems to be you're already doing, looking at it as an opportunity. And I know at this point right now, you probably have more questions than you have answers. You don't know how this is all going to work out. You don't know really how business is going to incorporate it. But, you know, the impact of this is going to be in every aspect of our lives. And if we were to take a position that we're going to resist this move, we're going to be doing, in my opinion, we're going to be doing a great disservice to our kids. And so I really do appreciate the leadership that you're providing within the district to make sure that guardrails are in place, that AI is used in an appropriate manner, that you're paying attention to the different grade levels and ages as to, you know, what the use could be and what it should be. And I think coming up with the answers to the questions you were asking and that Matt addressed in terms of, you know, how to learn how to use this in a way that it provides a benefit to the student. And I think that you've got a great start, and I wish you well on the journey.
Thank you. I do want to add just two quick things to go back to what Mr. Keller referenced about, you know, making sure that we're protecting our students, and that's why we're looking into these pilot with these like School AI or Power Buddy, because those are constrained. It looks very different for a student to use that product than it does to use Gemini or ChatGPT. We want that for our teachers. We want to give them access so they can do those kind of things, but students don't need that. That's when I talked about those spaces. It's really constrained by what the teacher's putting in there. So I hear you. We understand and we agree with you 100%. And then Dr. Howard made the point of talking about communication. My plan, after speaking to you guys tonight, was to send that communication out to our families tomorrow. We have staff communication that we have created that's going to go out to our staff. And then there is family communication that will be going out to families to let them know. That we're not letting ChatGPT run wild in the district, and their kids aren't going to be getting on those things, that those things have been locked down by our IT department. But we are looking at things like School AI or Power Buddy, and there will be buildings piloting that. And the next piece of communication will be just that communication that we're going to be sending out to the buildings who are piloting, that your school is going to be piloting this. And if you have any concerns, you know, we can reach out and we can try to address those concerns. But we are very aware that transparency in this is going to be the most important thing, and making sure that everyone is aware and we're doing what's best by kids. No matter what we do, and I think you guys know that about me, I've been here long enough that, one, I was the former instructional innovation director, so I'm always looking to the future, but two, kids come first, and making sure we're doing the best for our kids and protecting our kids is very important. So that'll never stop in my mind if I'm here.
One last question or comment. If in the future, maybe next school year, if there could be maybe some opportunities for parents to kind of see it hands-on, if there's any way to do that, that way, I think that would be helpful for parents to kind of see how it's being used in the classroom. I would be curious as a board member, but also as a parent, how it's helping my kids, because they're going to want to bring this out in the home, or maybe help us have guardrails in our home to make sure we're using the right types of tools as parents. I think that's going to be important for us.
So that is actually on the docket for our March work with our community stakeholders, is actually get an opportunity to kind of pull the curtain back and see exactly what is it that my child or young person is going to be interacting with. Yep.
I didn't know that, so thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate you being here. Have a good evening. Our second presentation is Project Flannel presentation by Eric Phillips, Economic Development Director for Union County, Marysville, and the Marysville Lane Company. Because you're not Eric.
And Dr. Howard, thanks so much for having us here this evening. Matt McQuaid, representing the Marysville Land Company. Eric will be joining me momentarily, and we're here to present an economic development opportunity that's looking at a site that we are developing called Marysville South, which is across the street from the 33 Innovation Park in Marysville. My plan is to provide you with a little bit of context and background. As you are all aware, we've been meeting for, 18 months to 2 years now, and this is the first time we've brought an opportunity for you because we have been focused on planning and paving the way to enable Marysville to compete for an opportunity like this. So I'm going to provide a little bit of that context, tee up the project parameters, and then I'll turn it over to Eric to actually present the agreement that's being negotiated or has been negotiated with the company and some of the financial projections associated with the project. So the subject property is a little over 590 acres. Should this project locate into the city of Marysville, the company would commit one phase of development to the city, which would include capital investment of about $1 billion, 50 full-time jobs with an associated payroll close to $5 million, $4.75 million, and on an individual basis, those jobs are double the average individual income in the city of Marysville. So these are high-paying jobs that are coming into the community, and they're permanent. The company would construct likely 800,000 square feet associated with the phase. Along with that would come hundreds of construction employees, many of whom are skilled trades that are on the site every day doing development. Once the site is fully operational, in addition to those 50 permanent jobs and those construction jobs, they also do have a high volume of contractors that are badging in and out of the facility every day that aren't direct employees of the company, but are working there and spending their money in Marysville. This company is still considering multiple locations. We certainly hope that they do choose Marysville, but the tax abatement, the 15-year 100% abatement that's proposed, is a critical factor in their decision-making process. The agreement, as you're aware, will include pilot or donation payments. Eric is going to present those momentarily, and he's also going to present those on its own, but also in combination with the actual tax revenue streams that are going to be generated from the project that the community and the schools will be benefiting from in addition to those direct payments. I mentioned that they are committing to one phase. There is a potential for them to do more, and it is critical to point out that, not to steal some of Eric's thunder, but for every phase, that includes an additional donation payment. So what Eric's going to be presenting is for phase one, but know if there are subsequent phases, those same payments will be coming to the school district. So this is an aerial of the property, and I'm just going to walk through a couple of those planning things that I mentioned earlier. So in August, well, first of all, as I mentioned, we've been planning this property for about 18 months. You can see Marysville East up in the upper right-hand corner of the screen. That was why we came into the community and had been our initial focus. This was a secondary focus. It just so happens that we were able to land a prospect on it. But we've been working on that for 18 months. In August of last year, Marysville City Council approved a rezoning of the property that made data centers a permitted use. The property had been zoned for industrial for years, but it had two different districts, and it just wasn't efficient for us in terms of planning and to take the site to market. So part of that was creating a new zoning district, a PUD, that added some certain permitted uses, removed certain permitted uses, but one of the key things that it did was involve several enhancements that are largely to address the residential lots that are immediately west of Marysville South. Everything to the east and to the southeast is industrial as well, but you do have a transition of use when you go to the west. And under the previous zoning, the setbacks were as little as 25 feet. So we had several meetings collectively with neighbors, several individually with neighbors, and decided to expand those setbacks to 150 feet for pavement, 200 feet for buildings. So significantly above and beyond what had been there before. In addition to that, within that setback area, a 12-foot mound is going to be developed that's going to have 6 feet of landscaping materials on top of it. So that is to screen and buffer those residential lots from the industrial development that's occurring to the east. One of the other main concerns that we heard was keeping traffic to Industrial Parkway. And we do have in the zoning that Industrial Parkway will be the primary area for ingress and egress from the property, and we are in process of engineering an overpass that would be built from Industrial Parkway to the site that would keep traffic to Industrial Parkway and away from Weaver Road. Final thing that I'm going to mention is that we did include in the zoning that anything that is located on Marysville South does have to abide by the city's noise ordinance. So despite the fact that this is the first time that we're bringing a project for this property, we have been actively working on it. The property is also included within the Marysville Southeast New Community Authority, and the company that locates here will be subject to its development charge. I'm going to skip over that slide because I just mentioned all of those points while the map was up. This is just to give you an idea of our schedule and process and what's in front of us. So we had our first city council reading on the 10th. We're obviously here today. Our second city council reading is scheduled for the 24th. And then hopefully the third and final meeting will occur on December 1st. That's important because the company would like to make a decision by the end of the year, and we certainly want them to do so, knowing that this incentive has been approved, given that it is a major factor in their decision. The only other thing that I'll mention on here is that while the company may be making a decision by the end of the year, there are still several steps in the process for them to develop in Marysville that they're going to have to go through, including a development agreement with the city, design review, engineering, so on and so forth. Before I turn it over to Eric, this is my last slide. I'm just going to tee everything up for him. So if the land were to remain as is in CAUV, you see that we have the different tax revenue streams listed here, and the total annually is a little less than $20,000. We have 15 years up there because that's the requested abatement term. Over 15 years, it would be about $290,000 in taxes collected. And now I'll turn it over to Eric to take it from here. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt and board members this evening. I'm going to present some of the financial aspects of this, but first want to give a shout out, thank you, Marysville Land Company, for their continued partnership, and I know they've met with the school board multiple times, and it's great having a developer that wants to meet with us and talk through issues, and this is a great opportunity for the community, and what I really want to do is go over the abatement, talk about some projections, and to see if there's any questions for Matt or I at the end as well. So what they're requesting is a 15-year 100% abatement. The reason why we're before you is that anytime you go above 75% abatement, it requires school board approval. You also have a donation agreement or a pilot payment, sometimes it's referred to, which stands for payment in lieu of taxes. So it's a 15-year 100% tax abatement being proposed. You can see the pilot or the donation payment as being proposed. The school district would receive a little bit over $1 million a year, which equates to about $16.1 million over that 15 years. Ohio High Point, $690,000, and then the city would receive about $1.2 million over that time frame, about $80K a year. So you can see the breakdown. Now that is prorated based on the percentage of taxes that are being paid on an annual basis. The millage is actually collected by each entity. Each year, we will have to do a new calculation to determine what that proration is. So just understand that is going to fluctuate during the term of the abatement. It's just some math we'll have to do each year as well. But it's a fair way to break up the pilot payment. It's the fairest way to do that. And then if you look at this, each of the city, the school district, and Ohio High Point receive about 47% of the taxes they would normally have received over time. And if you counter in the pilot payment with everything that's going on, it's actually not 100% abatement. It's actually a 62% abatement by the time the pilot's made when you look at those numbers. The income tax will be shared 50-50 between the school district and the city for permanent positions. And there'll also be an investment into economic development to monitor the abatement as we go through the 15-year term. This is kind of a breakdown. It gives you the total financial impact. And of course, it says total. These are more about taxes and pilots. Of course, with employees, other people that will come in and actually work here, they're going to be spending money in Marysville. So there's many other advantages to this project as well. But you can see the school district about 16.1 million. We estimate about $525,000 in taxes. And then also something that we look at as well is land increment. And by the way, these all numbers were verified by the county auditor's office for market value once it's completed. But the property tax is never abated, so you still get the advantage of that. So if the property sells for X, that's the value of that property, and it will be taxed as such. So that's actually taxed at 100%. So adding that all together, the school district for phase one will receive about $28 million. The city about $2.5 million. And you can see below, Matt referred to a little bit earlier, is the total without any development. There's a stark contrast between the two as well. A couple other points to be made on this. The county would receive about $2.1 million. That's from the land increment. Ohio High Point would receive about $1.1 million, which actually includes the pilot and the land increment. And then also, if there wasn't an abatement, and again, this abatement is critical to this, for this project to occur, the total taxes on an annual basis for phase one would be about $3.2 million, of which the school district would get about $2.4 million. So that gives you kind of more figures there when you're thinking about what you're doing from an abatement perspective. So some additional implications here. It's important that the pilot, the income tax and land increment directly benefit the city of Marysville and also benefit the school district without the addition of any students. And also, it's important to note, Matt referred to this or made this point, that the additional may be up to 2 phases, and this is actually times 3. So this is something else to keep in mind. So that $28 million, you're looking at a number that's going to be higher than that, of course. Each phase would include a new pilot of $1.2 million, and each phase would actually include potential new land increment as well. Left undeveloped, as you saw earlier, generates about $290,000 versus $34 million in land increment, income taxes, and pilot payments with phase one of this project. So it gives you kind of an overview of that. And that kind of sums everything up. Again, thank you for this opportunity. Happy to answer any questions that you may have. I think this probably slide is the most important slide of what we've shown this evening. Just shows the financial impact to the school district and the city. So with that matter, I will answer any questions that you may have this evening. A lot of information there.
I have a question, and maybe it was a misunderstanding by me. You mentioned that the pilot being prorated between the school district, the city, the JV, the Career Center, and that would change annually. I was understanding that was a fixed number, so just making sure we have the right understanding.
My understanding, it's not a fixed number. It would actually be adjusted on an annual basis when there'll be a calculation done each year. Now, I might be misreading the agreement, but I think that's...
So I guess the question that then would be, if it is prorated, when the NCA kicks in, is that going to reduce the school district's payment?
The NCA?
No, the NCA is a separate development charge, so it wouldn't impact the school's payment at all.
Okay.
Who does the recalculation?
It would be the CIC Economic Development would actually do that calculation. Of course, we would work closely with the schools to make certain it's the correct proration each year.
First, thank you both all for attending tonight's meeting. I think it's very important. Obviously, our board has preferred this process to meet and talk directly to the developer and kind of hear this process. And I think the Marysville Land Company has been a great partner, and this conversation has been going on for, I feel like, a couple years now, about multiple projects, but this one particularly. I do think that there is this abatement brings some positive benefit to our district. Obviously, 15-year abatement. I just want to understand or clarify that the abatement kicks in when the building is finished, is completed. Now, this first phase is 4 buildings. Will the abatement, is it like a set of 4 buildings? Once those 4 are completed, that's when the first year of the abatement begins? Or I'm sorry, the pilot payment will be paid after the first 4 buildings are complete, is that correct?
So when 40%, the county auditor determines that, so the way it's written, 40% of the estimated project size is completed, whatever 40% means, that's when, on January 1st of whatever year that is, that's when the pilot would kick in. So estimate would be 2027 is when the pilot would kick in, or 2028, but I assume they might be 40% done on January 1st, 2027. So that would be a potential, but it could be also 2028.
I was just coming up here to say, don't quote us on that, because we have to build an overpass.
Yes.
And we're still in the middle of engineering it. And it's going to take some time before we know exactly how that schedule is going to shake out and how it impacts the end user's development schedule. But I think 28 is probably a fair starting point, plus or minus.
Am I correct in saying it's not just the building, but also the job pledge? Both of those requirements have to be met, or is the job pledge, the job pledge now has a 3-year window, a grace period to meet those job pledges?
So everything in an agreement, according to state law, has a 3-year grace period, a build-up or a construction period. So typically it's 3 years from the time the agreement goes in effect, typically.
Okay, so if it's ratified by the end of this year, there's a 3-year period?
There typically is a 3-year period, yes, for a build-up.
I just think that's important because I don't want people in the community to think, hey, this money is coming to the school district next fiscal year or next tax year. There is going to be some, obviously, the development, the job still, the project is not secured yet. This is just getting the incentives in place with helping us secure that project. Then we have to go through our design and zoning process, development process, and then within 3 years, we should start seeing at least the land increment increase plus the pilot payment kick in within that window. So I think this is a good project. I was at work yesterday, and one of my coworkers was concerned with seeing a data center because they live Weaver Ridge. And I was able to say, hey, I think they're going to do mounds and landscaping, so I'm glad I'm right about that. Yes. And it did seem to settle their concern at least. My last question is, you just heard a presentation about AI, and I'm guessing there's a connection with AI and data centers. And in this agreement, I believe there should be some kind of relationship with the school district as far as, I know this is very early, but what does that look like, and what's the importance of data centers? There's a lot of concern in the community about data centers, but what's the importance of data centers with this new emerging economy that we have going forward?
Data centers are the infrastructure that powers everything. Data centers are where the computing power is. It's where these models are built. So it was not lost on us that the preceding presentation of this one was about how the schools can adopt AI and make it a part of their curriculum. So one thing I can say about this user is they are still confidential, but we know who they are, and we know that they're very community-minded. They value relationships with educational institutions within the communities in which they operate greatly. They are a tech company, so STEM education and supporting STEM education is a really big deal to them. And while we can't frame up what their partnership's going to look like with the schools today, I can tell you that they're going to be very interested in having a strong level of engagement with the schools.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yeah, Bill Keck is not here and unable to be here this evening, but Bill and I were the board representatives that engaged with you and the prospective company. And the conversations that we had, the meetings we had, were some of the most positive, very honest conversations, laying out expectations, so that each side kind of understood what they needed in order to see this as a benefit to the community. And I was very impressed with how frequently community engagement was a part of our conversation with them. I know there's some people will say, well, you know, is this the best deal you can get? Is this particular company going to make the largest investment and generate the most money for the school district? And I would guess we have not had in this community anybody come in and say, we're going to invest $1 billion since, I think, Honda. And I don't think theirs was $1 billion originally. I think it was much less than that. So this is probably, in my opinion, the best and highest developmental opportunity for that particular location. And I know some people will say, well, you could have or you should have, but state law and the economic realities of development have to come together. And so some of the theoretical possibilities just don't exist. They're simply not options. And I think, as pointed out, current income versus the future income is significant in terms of providing for the needs of our school district and the needs of our community. And I would remind people that this is an income, if it happens, if the company decides to develop here, that this will be money that will come to us that is not coming out of the pockets of residential taxpayers. This is money that will come from an industrial commercial type development. It doesn't add any additional students to our school district, and it provides a resource that will lift our school district financially in very significant ways. And I know that you're working very hard to make other developmental options available moving forward. And I have mentioned before, it was a real pleasure working with what's now the Marysville Land Company. The individuals there have always been very honest and very straightforward, laying out, as I said earlier, their expectations and maybe in some ways tempering the board's expectations a little bit, but it's been a very good and beneficial relationship that I think has led us to what personally I hope sets a standard for future development. This company is going above and beyond. One of the, if I can, I'm going to say one of the comments I made in one meeting was I expected more than the minimum. And this is not the minimum. This is, what we're looking at represents a more generous situation for our school district than what state law minimum would have been. So, past agreements can be judged as they are, but I think this is maybe one of the better or maybe the absolute best developmental proposal that will be brought before this board. So I want to thank you and thank Eric for all the hard work and thank the people from Marysville Land Company for their attending. Appreciate that.
We reciprocate. We're very grateful for the relationship we've been able to build with the board and going through this process with you, and we're just getting started and very excited about the future. Thank you.
And Mr. Smith, you actually you brought something I think is critical to mention tonight, and that's there's an inflation factor in that pilot payment too, that it'll go up based on inflation, and of course that was part of your leadership in some of the meetings that we had. We also have another requirement that there's an additional fee if they go above a million square feet in size, we'll get more money as a result of that. So there's factors in there that actually, to your point, benefit the school district going forward. It's going to be even more than this, more than likely.
Thank you very much for your presentation. We appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Eric. And now we move on to reports. Superintendent's report.
Yes, thank you, Mrs. Savage. Board, I thought I would just sort of highlight some of the co-curricular activities that I've been privileged to witness here lately. A couple weeks back, I had a chance to go to Indianapolis for the National FFA Convention. I've been telling just about anybody that will listen, if you want to feel good about the future of our country, go to a National FFA Convention, see 70,000 kids, know all about parliamentary procedure, just polite, respectful bunch from all 50 states across the nation, including Puerto Rico, U.S. Virgin Islands. It was just something really spectacular about seeing the youth from across the entire country come together. And Marysville is a major cog in that wheel. As you know, they are up for the top 10, or up for the very top chapter in the entire country. And I just couldn't be any more proud of them. So I enjoyed that time with them. I also wanted to highlight over the last 2 weekends, there's been 2 theater productions, one from the high school that was held at the Avalon Theater. It was Putnam County Spelling Bee. If you had a chance to witness that, you know that it was outstanding, as well as the Cinderella Youth Edition that was put on at Bunsold Middle School. If you want to talk about performing arts, the future is very bright here in Marysville. Last thing I want to say along with our performing arts, I'll highlight that our marching band qualified for the OMEA state contest in Piqua a couple weeks back, where they received an excellent rating. One of the things I'd really like to tout to the board is just a deep appreciation for the parents and the boosters that help support our students. And that goes, you can certainly witness that with the band boosters, but it goes for all the boosters across our district. So thank you, parents. Quick enrollment update. We have at this point in time 5,706 students. Last year at this time we were at 5,668, so trending up slightly. And then I'll just echo, I'd like to thank Mark and Chris for their presentation on the integration of AI. Hopefully we had a chance to answer some questions, discuss the guardrails, and we're going to go into this very strategically. And then last, I also would like to thank Ann, Eric, Matt, the Marysville Land Company. It's been nice to engage with you on this partnership. So thank you, Bart.
We'll move to treasurer's report. Todd?
Okay. I'm going to give you an update. You're probably aware by now there was some legislation just recently passed. So just last night, 4 bills were approved by the Senate and the House. Those are all going to have some pretty significant effects on property taxes. Those now go to the governor for potential approval or veto. First of those, House Bill 129, impacts emergency levies. The main impact is that it would impact Marysville schools, is the emergency levies would now be included in the 20 mil floor calculation. So as you know, we're currently on the 20 mil floor, and we also have an emergency levy that, based on current law, is not calculated in the 20 mil floor. So with this law, it would put us off of the 20 mil floor, with the real impact of that being it would decrease. While on the 20 mil floor, we get revenue growth based on inflationary property valuation growth. That would go away once we're not on the 20 mil floor anymore. It did include a provision that emergency levies could be renewed as fixed sum levies. That they don't like the term emergency levies that they created, so they changed it to fixed sum. So that would still be an option. Second provision, House Bill 309, that has to do with the County Budget Commission. So that would give authority to the County Budget Commission to reduce the amount of money raised by a levy. A hearing would have to be held with the tax entity before that could be reduced. And there are guidelines that are in place that would determine when and how much a levy could be reduced. I don't believe this one would have any immediate impact on us. I haven't seen the exact guidelines, but I think that we're going to fall well below what those guidelines would be. Not to say it couldn't have an impact in the future, though.
For this one, I believe the first 5 years they cannot reduce. Is that correct?
I believe that was changed.
Okay,
I
sorry.
think it's now, if it's a new levy, they have to wait only 1 year.
1 year. Okay, thank
Yeah.
you.
Third provision, House Bill 186, which creates a revenue cap. So this one we've already talked about. So this caps the revenue growth for districts that are already on the 20 mil floor. So it would cap the revenue that's created from reappraisal or a triennial update. It would be capped at a cumulative 3-year rate of inflation, which that in and of itself is going to hurt us financially. But on top of that, it does not adjust the school funding formula to account for the revenue cap. And again, we talked about this a month or two ago. It would create a situation where a district would appear wealthier than it is, meaning it's going to look like we're receiving more money than we really are on the local side, which would then mean we would receive less state funding. And like those that have been following state funding for a long time, like Dick, you've probably heard the term phantom revenue. We haven't heard it for a long time because they had finally gotten rid of that concept, but that's going to possibly come back with this. So again, phantom revenue is the idea that the state formula thinks that you're getting more local revenue than you really are, which then reduces your state funding. So really, we would potentially see a double loss there. We would lose local funding, but also lose state funding as well. At this point, you're probably thinking, well, at least we get the income revenue from our inside millage. Well, there we get House Bill 335. So that caps revenue growth from inside millage at the same cumulative 3-year rate of inflation. So we're going to lose the revenue growth on the 20 mil floor as well as on our inside millage. The Legislative Service Commission put out projections that for each district, so for us, that's showing an annual loss of over $2 million. Again, those are only projections. It's a lot of moving pieces there. One, what is that 3-year inflationary factor going to be in the long term? What is our actual inflationary growth from an update or a reappraisal going to be? So a lot of moving pieces there that we won't know, but I think that is going to be over $2 million annually. And that doesn't include, that LSC projection does not include the loss on inside millage, so that's probably at least another third of that $2 million on top that would be an additional loss. It's also worth noting that, any type of projection on that, there's projection based on what's in law, and then there's also the projections in our 5-year forecast where we're assuming future updates and reappraisals. So that would probably be an even bigger impact on the 5-year forecast in those out years. Our next forecast update will be February 2026, so be here before we know it, and so we'll have some updated numbers for that. Finally, my last slide, I've got some good news. Unfortunately, we had 6 slides of bad news, only 1 slide of good news, but at least I ended with the good news. So we did just recently complete our bond refunding. That'll save our taxpayers over $1.2 million. And I'd like to clarify, I'm not saying we're, saving the school district $1.2 million. That's a direct savings to our taxpayers. So great news there. And then our health insurance renewal, that's going to be coming in January of 2026. You may remember in our forecast, we'd assume 9%, which is pretty well the average that we've been seeing. It's actually going to come in at 0%. So great news there, likely savings of over $400,000 annually. That's it for me.
Thank you, Todd.
I think Jermaine, you have a question?
The cap on the revenue for, I guess, House Bill 186, they talked about maybe like funding the credits with the tax holiday monies. Do we benefit from that?
That won't impact us.
It won't
That's
impact-
for districts that were in a reappraisal in 2023 or 2024. We were in a reappraisal in 2025.
Okay, and we'll move on to Board President Report. So in recognition of our school district, Marysville Exempt Village School District military veterans, with Veterans Day taking place recently, we'd like to take a moment to announce the names of our staff who are veterans. At Raymond Elementary, Joe Kozier, a veteran of the Navy. Within our food service group, Michelle Baschnagel, she is a veteran of the Army. Brandon Kohler, he is with her IT group. He's a veteran of the Army. Mark Fensel, veteran of the Marine Corps. He's at Early College High School. Megan Harper, veteran of the Air Force at Northwood Elementary. Christina Grady Watts, a veteran of the Air Force at Early College High School. Excuse me. Michael Belly, a veteran of the Marine Corps with our transportation group. James Doubt, a veteran of the U.S. Navy at Creekview. Spencer Silver, a veteran of the U.S. Navy at Central Office. And Travis Barber, veteran of the Air Force with our transportation group. Thank you to all of our veterans, and special thanks to these veterans who serve in our school district directly. Thank you. In regards to Veterans Day, we had events scheduled. As part of celebrating Veterans Day, our buildings held several ceremonies or events, included in part, Bunsold Middle School had Captain Alex Rosnowski, who is the father of a student, Jacob, in 7th grade, speak to the students along with Ohio State Representative and veteran Tracy Richardson. Students invited their veterans from their families to attend the event along with them. Raymond Elementary also held a Veterans Day program, and Mill Valley also had a Veterans Day breakfast. Creekview Intermediate created Flags of Honor exhibit under the direction of Melissa Borja near the flagpole with the banner made possible with the generous support of Brittany Freeman. Purple Star designation. Each one of our school buildings is designated by the Ohio Department of Education as a Purple Star building. Our military liaisons in each building, along with our principals, in the process of applying for renewals this year to remain military family schools. Purple Star Award recognizes schools that show a major commitment to students and families connected to our nation's military. Next, I just want to go over we had a community coffee this past Sunday, and I was there, and I didn't have any company, so I was a little lonely. But what was also going on was the Ohio School Board Association Capital Conference, and some of the other members were there on Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. If anyone would like to offer some reflection.
Okay, I'll keep my remarks short. It was a great conference. This conference is with the Ohio School Board Association, which we are a member of. Every board member is encouraged to serve or take advantage of those development service opportunities. Over the 3 days, I spent a lot of my time sessions regarding AI. I'm still trying to learn it, how the AI looks in education. Obviously, bond growth issues. I feel like that's appropriate for our district growing, and we may be building new schools here in the coming few years. But pretty much like a theme I got from, it wasn't evident, but we are stewards of our future and really taking this seriously. And while we all come with our own ideology or political, backgrounds or reasons to serve, there's still a lot of humanity in our buildings and solving real problems and making sure those opportunities are there for every student, no matter their background, socioeconomic. so we can make sure that education remains the great equalizer and for a better and stronger tomorrow. So that's kind of my general takeaway leaving the conference, just from all the sessions and speakers and everything I saw. So thank you for the opportunity to share.
Thank you. Did you want to share anything?
I had a couple of conflicts. I wasn't able to spend as much time at the conference, and I know Jermaine had an opportunity to go to more of the sessions than I did. But this conference is important in terms of helping board members learn more about factors and aspects of the job of being a board member. And it's a great time to meet and talk and share ideas. And so I was able to do that with some of the people from OSBA that I've worked with in the past. And Dr. Howard and I had a nice conversation. And so it was a worthwhile endeavor for me.
Thank you. We'll move on to student achievement report.
I'll be as brief as possible. Dr. Howard already mentioned that our MHS FFA program were top 10 chapters in the nation. That's outstanding. Our STEM high school, ECHS, welcomed 17 local business partners for their STEM solutions projects. That's a great partnership. 228 of our 8th graders went to DC. And then in our elementary and pre-Ks, they noted a lot of celebrations for student behaviors, fluencies, and large turnouts for trunk or treats. There's no OSBA success newsletter for November yet.
Next is a legislative report, which I'm going to skip because Todd covered everything that would have been covered in the legislative report. So moving on. I need a motion to accept the draft minutes from our meeting on last month's meeting.
I move that the minutes from both of our meetings a month ago, the regular meeting and also the Records Commission meeting, be adopted.
Second.
Can we have a vote?
Mr. Smith?
Yes?
Mr. Ferguson?
Yes.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Yes. And we're moving on to the Board of Education items. The first item, may I have a motion to approve the board policies?
So moved.
Second?
Can I have a vote?
Mr. Ferguson?
Discussion.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry.
There's a memo of a summary of all the board changes. That's one of our roles here, but this is our second reading, so we'll be approving them. If you have any questions, look at board docs, because there's several policies here, but I have read and examined all of them. Thank you.
Sorry, I got ahead of myself. I apologize. So next item is, oh, yes, you're right.
Mr. Ferguson?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes?
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So next item, I have a motion for the cell tower agreement at Bunsold Middle School.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
This is an agreement between us and, I forget the provider, but it's a small section of land where a cell tower be erected. We're going to get $1,000 a month rental that includes inflation component on an annual basis. It's a 5-year agreement. It's a section of property that's near the creek. It's near Route 36, and it is not something that, in my opinion, the school district looking forward would find a better use for. So,
Any other comments?
I'll just add that Mr. Smith prefaced that very good, but there is in that agreement, it can be renewed up to 9 5-year terms. So in essence, you're looking at a 45-year agreement. So
Just a, not really a serious comment, but we used to have our board meetings at Bunsold, and I never had signal when I was at Bunsold. So hopefully this solves that problem.
Can we get a vote?
Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, next we have a, may I get a motion to recommend the paving bid proposal at Marysville High School?
So moved.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
This, if I may, I guess, I've discussed this with Todd, and this is coming up for the fiscal year 27 budget. So this is kind of getting the process to get bids, solicit bids for the upcoming budget year under our permanent improvement fund.
Yeah, I mean, the community supported building all of our school buildings, and we have a PI fund that provides the money for the maintenance, and it's always been part of the board responsibility to make sure that we take good care of and maintain the school property to protect the investment the community has made, so.
I did confirm with Todd earlier today that this paving project was part of the overall facilities plan that we had, so we are staying true to that plan that we had developed. Can we have a vote?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes. Next up, may I have a motion to approve the resolution of certain community reinvestment area real property tax exemptions for the city of Marysville and authorizing the execution of a donation agreement in connection with those exemptions.
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion?
I think I've made my position clear. I think this is a great agreement for the school district. It'll provide a significant revenue stream that does not rely on residential property taxes. It, I think, reflects the partnership between the city, the school district, and the developers, specifically the Marysville Land Company. And I think that moving forward, it's my hope that this is the type of agreement that the school board is able to look at and hopefully approve in other situations as other developments come along. But I will preface or qualify that every development's different. Every development has different demands. We've seen that with some that we've come across in the past. But this is, I think, very beneficial, not only school district, but our entire community.
I think I'm in support of this this agreement. It's a 15-year abatement. However, just even the land increment will be a significant increase of revenue through property tax. Also, a 50-50 income tax share, which is kind of helping add to that pilot payment. In all, my philosophy is, yes, we do make the best decisions for our students and our district, but we also are kind of partners in our community, and economic development is very important because you see a lot of residential or single-family or multifamily development. However, we need to make sure our economic development is diverse and the type of job offerings it brings. This project is bringing higher paying jobs, different skill sets than what may be in the auto manufacturing or advanced manufacturing sector that we have here in Marysville. This is going to bring a benefit to the residents who live here or move here, and help increase the commercial tax base in the long term, which is very important for us when we look at property taxes and the burdens that are placed on residents when it comes to levies and your property tax bills. We need to have a stronger commercial tax base. While this is an abatement, just the increase in land increment is a win. And in the future, this will help. This will come online to the the full tax burden in the future. So I support this, and I thank you for the partnership and again, this agreement didn't happen overnight. This has been a long in the making, and there's still a long road to kind of secure this. And so there's a lot to come. This is not guaranteed. Just want to make sure voters hear that. Checks aren't coming in the mail tomorrow. So thank you.
Board, if I can, just quick add to some of the comments. Unlike residential development, this project has very little impact. It has very little impact on student enrollment pressures or increasing additional staffing costs, but it still brings in substantial benefits to schools.
Any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, I'd like a vote.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes. Motion passes. Next item, we have a motion to approve Vouchers Hurt Ohio resolution.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second first and a second. Any discussion?
I'll start. There's lots of layers to this resolution and school vouchers, in my opinion, from my perspective as a parent who chooses to send their child to public schools. But I'll be voting against it. My reason being is I'm a big proponent of school choice. Some other components that some say fall in line underneath this voucher program are accountability systems for schools, and also some funding mechanisms. In my opinion, those are separate, and there are problems with both of those within the state. But my vote will be no to the resolution based on the premise of I'm an advocate of school choice.
Any other discussion?
I'm going to vote yes to joining this, and there's two reasons. Inflation and words. Inflation is defined as increasing wages and costs, which is considered to be desirable, as opposed to deflation, which is lower wages and costs. Inflation is connected to prosperity. Deflation is connected to recession and depression. The federal government's monetary goal is for 2% inflation. For our district, 2% inflation, and Todd may come up with a more precise answer, means that our income tax, our income has to increase by about $3 million a year. For households in our community, inflation has a similar impact. A household earning $75,000 a year needs $1,500 more, about $125 a month for inflation. A $100,000 home household, which is a little above our median income in the community, needs to increase by about $2,000 a year, $170 a month. The point being that even if you don't address growth, our district and our residents face increasing costs, which are in the world of economics positive and a desirable situation. So how do you address inflation? For households, additional dollars can come from annual wages, salaries, cost of living adjustments, investments, and other personal financial decisions. For our district, we can ask for additional property taxes, or we can receive increased funding from the state of Ohio. Recent property tax values have soared because of various economic factors that have resulted in residential taxpayer protests. So increasing property taxes is not a sustainable option. So we looked at the possibility of additional funding from the state of Ohio school funding budget line and the Fair School Funding Plan. For several years, the state has used the Fair School Funding Plan to determine how much money our school district gets. The plan has two parts. The state share, which is the cost factor or what they pay, and the local share, which is the wealth factor and what we pay locally. Over the past 4 years, the legislature has adjusted the formula so that their share, the costs, are reduced while the local share, wealth, is increased. They also decided they would only fund their share. It's beginning at 16% the first year and increasing to 66% last year. The result is that the legislature pays less, local taxpayers are asked to pay more. And this has led to the demands for property tax reform. Is there a solution that doesn't raise local or state taxes, which is not dependent on property taxes? Yes, there is. There's a line item in the state budget that shows the money available for all school districts in Ohio. The money comes from income tax, sales tax, and use taxes, none from property taxes. Not all the money from this line in the state budget goes to public schools like Marysville. $1.7 billion is earmarked for the Ed Choice voucher program. The second word is words. Words in the Constitution of the State of Ohio, Article 4, Section 2, adopted in 1851. General Assembly shall make provisions for taxation or otherwise, as with the income raised from the school trust fund, to secure a thorough and efficient system of common schools throughout the state, but no religious or other sect should ever have exclusive right to or control over any part of state school funds in this state. A and no are the two key words in this section of the Constitution. A is a small word, but small words matter. In September of 1988, Bill Clinton famously said, "It depends on what the meaning of the word is." In this section of the Constitution, the even smaller word, A, it indicates a single item, in this case, one system of common schools. One might ask, what is a system of schools? It's the organization of facilities, administrators, and resources to provide education in an area or district. Please note the word education, the process of acquiring knowledge and skills, is absent from this section of the Constitution. The first part of this section in the state constitution thus creates one system of buildings, teachers, staff, and others, rather than a process, the education. The second part of Article 4, Section 2 is equally clear as to the use of tax dollars on school funding line item. The word found there is no. Denial, refusal, a prohibition, not under any circumstances, never. No religious or other sect or sects shall ever have exclusive right to or control over any part of school funds of this state. So how are A and no connected to the Columbus School District versus the State of Ohio lawsuit? They form the basis of the legal argument the State of Ohio has acted in violation of the Constitution of the State of Ohio. That's, the state has, and the issues are that this, from the Columbus School District et al., that the state has created two systems of school districts, that religious sects have gained control over school funding dollars in the Ed Choice program. The allegations do not question assertions that students in the Ed Choice program receive educational benefit or that vouchers in and of themselves are unconstitutional. It avoids the issue of the end justifying the means and questions altogether. It focuses narrowly on the words of the Ohio Constitution and whether the state's actions are consistent with those words. In the decision in Franklin County Common Pleas Court by Judge Page, there's an extensive review of the history of the process of the creation of the expanded Ed Choice program and the development and the amendment of the Constitution of the state of Ohio. She cites one particular case, Ohio Supreme Court case, Centerville versus Knob, where the court wrote, in construing constitutional text that is ratified by direct vote, we consider how the language would have been understood by voters who adopted the amendment. It is the duty of the court to ascertain and to give effect to the intent of the people. The court generally applies the same rules when construing the Constitution as it does to when it construes a statutory provision, beginning with the plain language of the text and considering how the words and phrases would have been understood by voters in their normal and ordinary use. In the original lawsuit, additional allegations that drew on other sections of the Ohio Constitution were denied by the judge. Currently, I believe there are two specific basic challenges remaining. Did the state create a second system of schools, and do religious sects have exclusive use to and exclusive control over state tax funds? The other basic question is whether joining the lawsuit provides potential benefit to Marysville School District and the residents of our school. I don't know how the Supreme Court will rule on legal issues, but I believe that the plaintiffs will prevail. I believe that if the court rules in favor of the plaintiff school district, Marysville schools will benefit and our taxpayers will benefit from the potential of additional non-property tax state law added to the state funding, to any state funding method. Why do I believe this? Current use of tax dollars in the state biennium budget is earmarked to support Ed Choice program and has become a significant source of income to private schools. They will receive approximately $1.8 billion over the next 2 years. The budgetary action by the legislature results in the creation of two different school systems, one public and one private, supported by tax dollars from the same line item. The Constitution says there should only be one. I also believe that religious sects have gained exclusive right to or control over part of the school funds of this state. The reason why is found in the Ed Choice application process within the Department of Education and Workforce. The first step to apply for an education or for an Ed Choice voucher is to meet program guidelines that have been expanded so that almost 100% of students are eligible. Now, I summarize that. There's a lot more information there. Step 2, and I quote, is to find a participating private school and apply for enrollment. Students must first be accepted for enrollment at the participating private school, and then they can apply for the scholarship. And so, to Mr. Keller, I see this as not a parental choice, but a private school choice as to who gets to use the voucher, because the school officials decide who they admit and who they do not. The private school will submit the scholarship application for your child through the secure online scholarship application system. Once the child has been accepted by the private school will have the application complete a scholarship request form. The private school will then submit the Ed Choice application for your child through the online secure application system only, which is capitalized, available to the private school. Because the choice of attending a private school rests with the private school and not the parent, because the private school and only the private school can submit the application, and because the private school can, and in most cases is, a religious sect schools, I believe they gain complete control and exclusive use of some tax dollars. 91% of Ed Choice vouchers went to religious schools. If the plaintiffs prevail, the legislature will have $1.7 billion, which can be used to fund public education in Ohio. Several years ago, the legislature increased the cost factors in the Fair School Funding Plan, resulting in our district seeing an increase of approximately $3.4 million. This was the only cost factor increase since this plan was in place. Fully funding the Fair School Funding Plan would require, by most estimates, about $1.7 billion. A fully funded school funding plan would cost, inputs are adjusted annually, would bring millions of dollars to our district, funds generated by non-property tax source, which would not raise local, state taxes and would address the financial strains caused by inflation on our district, resulting in fewer property tax requests. Property tax reform benefiting our local taxpayers and adequate funding for our school district benefiting our students are both achievable. And that's why I'm going to vote yes.
I perhaps should have read the resolution. My bad. I'll go ahead. Whereas the state has adopted a universal voucher system, and whereas Ed Choice vouchers are funded by the state from designated appropriation line item 200, 550, 200, 604, 200, 612, and payments to private schools diminish the amount of funds and level of education opportunities in school districts and ESCs. Whereas the dedication of school voucher funds from funds available to authentic public education further reduces the funding available to support the additional needs of minority pupils, pupils in poverty, and pupils with disabilities. Whereas the dedication of school voucher funds from the appropriations that funds authentic public school education increases the reliance on local tax revenue and maintains school operations in violation of the Ohio Constitution and clear directives of the Ohio Supreme Court. Section 1. Now therefore the Board of Education finds and determines that the Universal Voucher Program is harmful to the district, its pupils, its taxpayers, its voters, and staff. Section 2, the Board of Education authorizes and directs the school district's joiner of the Ohio Coalition for Equity and Adequacy of School Funding Coalition and directs the district's treasurer to pay the coalition dues as set forth in Section 3. Coalition dues for the school year are the sum of $2 per district pupil. So that would be about $11,420-ish. Dues shall be allocated by the coalition as follows. 50 cents per pupil shall be initially allocated to the payment of coalition operating expenses, to $1.5 per pupil shall be allocated to the support of the coalition's efforts to challenge the constitutionality of Ed Choice Vouchers program. Coalition dues, a total of $2 per pupil, are payable upon the passage of this resolution.
Thank you. I want to preface my comments by saying I'm not a constitutional law attorney, and I got a D. Unfortunately, I got a D in Mr. Smith's AP Government class. So take my comments as you will. However, personally, I will not stand in the way of a parent's right to choose what the best educational option for their own children are, nor will I support using or applying public tax dollars to join a lawsuit, which will most likely not be successful. This is a nationwide movement. There is a movement to expand choice, and there is a counter movement to rule choice unconstitutional. And so far, overwhelmingly, at least from the constitutional amendments, choice is most likely going to be here to stay in America and Ohio. To the point of the religious schools and the exclusive right, the Ohio Supreme Court in 2002, Zellman versus Simmons Harris, ruled that the Cleveland Scholarship and Tutoring Program did not represent an establishment of religion, but it was rather neutral in all respects towards religion. The Cleveland Scholarship and Tutoring Program was the first voucher program in Ohio, and that Ohio Supreme Court ruled 5-4 in favor of it. The court has not slid more liberal in its ideology or membership since then, and precedent does matter in case law. And I believe that the court, we have no clue how the court will rule. Obviously, in that same court case, thorough and sufficient. The public schools must still be funded in a thorough and sufficient manner, and that is one of the claims in the Ed Choice voucher program. However, the budget that Mr. Smith referenced, where we did see an increase because the cost inputs were updated, that same budget vouchers, Ed Choice, was also expanded. The state legislator can do both. They can provide educational vouchers to whomever the parent chooses. Again, the state's not forcing anyone to take a voucher. Parents are choosing to apply for vouchers, and the vouchers are prorated based on the wealth of the individual's family. So the state the Ohio General Assembly can fund vouchers, and they can fund public education if they choose to. My role as a board member has been and will continue to be is to engage and educate my lawmaker on what our district is doing and and what we need to be successful to be a school of choice. We've done that before alongside of many of my board members on this stage today. I've done that in the last 2 budget cycles. I will continue to do that. I will not fight against choice. I will fight for my district and what we need. Something also that's interesting is Ohio has community schools, which is, in my view, a separate form of public schools. Community schools are not supported by local tax dollars like we are. They're fully funded by the state. However, no, this lawsuit does not address that. They only address the vouchers and not community schools. However, if you read the emails from this coalition, they are not really a fan of charter or community schools either. And so where does this needle go? And part of this resolution allocates some of the dollars that we will fund pursuant to fund this organization, who is not just in favor of vouchers. They're also not in favor of community schools or charter schools. I will wrap up my remarks and just say, let's just, two points. As a district, I believe we benefit from our partnerships and our ecosystem here, community, with Trinity Lutheran School, St. John's. I've met plenty of parents and individuals, and some even public educators, who send their kids to some of our private school choices. That's their choice to do so, but eventually those students flow back into our middle and high school student, and I think it makes our system better, and those families embrace what we provide. We welcome them, and I think it helps our community and helps our school district really thrive. Some of those families receive vouchers. So let's not take away those options from those students or fight those options from those students. Let's just say this case is victorious. There is absolutely no guarantee that the Ohio General Assembly will reallocate $1 billion to public education. They could further reduce the state income tax. They could offer a tax credit for families who send their children to private school. They could create a scholarship from the lottery fund, which is something that South Carolina is doing. Their state Supreme Court ruled their voucher program unconstitutional. Now they're creating a scholarship fund from the lottery fund rather than general fund. They could expand and fund homestead exemption. They could reallocate the funds for any other purpose. The Constitution and the Supreme Court cannot tell the Ohio General Assembly exactly how much to spend on public education. They are not going to be prescriptive in their ruling. They can only say, it's constitutional or not, or it meets certain merits, but they cannot say you must fund X amount or you must update cost inputs on a regular basis. Something we can do, we can, as people, we can pass a constitutional amendment that requires there be a formula that's fully funded with cost inputs updated regularly. And if we as the people pass a constitutional amendment to require the General Assembly to do that, that solves our problem for funding schools. We can elect candidates to the State House who will fully fund public education and ensure that they fund public education. You know, in Union County, 70% of our voters sent our representative and our state senator to the State House. And in their platforms, they say they support school choice. So while we support candidates, maybe we don't support every single issue they stand for, the voters are sending candidates who are running on platforms that say they support school choice by 70% or more margins. Therefore, maybe people in our community support choice, and maybe we should not use their tax dollars to participate in a lawsuit that is on one side of the spectrum of this argument. I think we can continue to be a school district of choice by doing what is right for all students, engaging and educating our residents, and working diligently with our elected representatives in the Ohio General Assembly to fund education. Let's not continue this path of vouchers versus public. Let's pursue whatever it takes to educate Ohio's children. And here's what we need to complete our mission and compete against any option out there. That's where I stand on this issue. Thank you.
Okay.
If I may.
Oh, yes, please, sorry.
In reading the lawsuit that was filed in Franklin County and the judge's decision, the case is not about vouchers and it's not about choice. And so I'd ask my colleagues to maybe reconsider. It is focused on whether or not the challenge, the legal challenge, is whether or not the state legislature is providing thorough and efficient system of schools. And since the money that goes to the public schools and is used for vouchers comes from the same line, the legislature has a choice. Now, earlier court cases, Simmons Harris versus Goff, which was the Cleveland voucher, whether or not it was violated separation of church and state. The court found that at the time, based on a program of limited scope to a targeted group of people based on their income status, and where the schools in the Cleveland area were receiving more money per student than the vouchers that the state was offering at that particular time. And the school district also had to be one that was dysfunctional. The court said that the program at that time and with that size and with that scope was constitutional, but they did note and write in their decision that the private school success should not come at the cost or expense of our public education system or our public school teachers. And so they did set a limit. Now, since that court case, the program has been expanded. Income it's not low income anymore. You can have an income of $130,000, $140,000 in your household and still get a voucher.
That's not accurate from personal experience.
Well, okay. All right, well, okay. That's but even the Supreme Court decision, Zellman versus Simmons Harris, said the program at issue, which they said did not violate the Establishment Clause, religion, At that time, the participating schools were not able to discriminate on the basis of religion. The public school districts in a school district adjacent to the covered districts are allowed to participate. Participating adjacent public schools received funding above the per pupil amount that the participating public schools received. And the public and private schools must accept students in accordance with rules and procedures established by the state's superintendent. And I think that the circumstances in terms of the way the voucher program has changed, I agree with both of you that parents ought to have choice. I agree with you that the state can issue vouchers. The lawsuit is focused on whether the state is meeting its responsibility to the public schools. The lawsuit itself doesn't address vouchers, doesn't address parental choice. It impacts those clearly, but the focus of the legal argument is on whether or not the state is meeting its constitutional responsibility. And I believe that if the state meets its constitutional responsibility, that, as Jermaine said, it meets the goal of benefiting our students in our school district, which is a responsibility of board membership. So,
If I may, there are 5 counts to this lawsuit. Count 1 is the creation of one or more systems of uncommon schools is constitutional. That will target the voucher program. I believe that opens up for community schools because they are not a part of the same system. And but this does directly impact private. The count 2, it does talk about the adequacy, and it's saying that you're funding choice there, and you're not funding public education. In my comments, I've alluded to there has been a budget where they've expanded choice and they have updated the cost inputs. The state legislature can do both, and there's no guarantee the court can. There's no guarantee that if they're successful, that the state legislature is saying, all right, we have an extra $1 billion, let's fund education. They're trying to eliminate the state income tax, for instance. They could say, we have $1 billion, let's reduce our expenditures and not fund what they say we should fund. I do think there are cases and mechanisms and tools to try to fight for a formula, because we don't even know if a formula is going to be in our next budget. We're going to fight. It's going to be a fight just to even have a formula, let alone cost inputs updated. And I think that's worth the fight. But this strategy, joining a lawsuit that has been going on since I've been on the board for 4 years, we haven't joined it. We haven't discussed it. This has never been our work plan to join it in the last 4 years. This has been a case that's happened, that's been on the dockets for the last 4 years. Let me go to count 3. No religious or sect shall ever have exclusive right, which is something you've mentioned in your comments. This is, and in the rhetoric that this organization, they do not believe any tax dollars should support any religious schools. So religious schools, private schools, this is a key component of their lawsuit. And then also, they don't believe, count 5 is that the citizens of Ohio, or the Constitution, believes it's harmful to fund the voucher when there's a violation of the Equal Protection Clause, which that I believe was not that was actually not found in Judge's Page order. So I do want to be clear-eyed here that this lawsuit is targeting choice, the voucher program, and if they're successful, this will eliminate choice. And there's no guarantee that they're going to send funding to public education. At the end of the day, it's going to be parents who are, I have friends growing up. They are public school, and I support public education. I graduated from here. I've testified at the State House. I support public education. I will continue to. But not every family is blessed to live in Marysville, Ohio. Not every family has a good community public school that they can go to. Some parents, it's not the rich and wealthy that I'm concerned about. It's the kid who has a single mom that's working 2 jobs, who their mom needs them to go to a good school with good peers, get them out of the chaotic school that they could go to, that they would be sent to if there wasn't an option. if this lawsuit is successful, they're going to take opportunities away from those kids. And obviously I serve our school district, but I care about all kids, and I believe there's many ways to educate and connect with our kids. And every dollar that Ohio invests in education is a good dollar. Do we have to make sure that there are quality measures, making sure there's accountability measures? Yes, absolutely. Have we failed in this regard? Yes, ECOT is a huge example. We need to make sure that there's provisions and that we are getting a return on investment with our public tax dollars. But I rather invest in education any given day over half of the stuff that people run for office say we need to invest in, because through education we can be independent, self-driven, and make our own American dream possible. And so that's why I think let's not get in the way between a parent and their right to send their kid where they need to go to be successful. And let's not apply these public tax dollars to a lawsuit which is choosing an argument or a side of the debate that may not reflect the values in our community.
The lawsuit involves two issues. Has the state created two systems of schools? Have they taken money from the line item that funds education, public education in Ohio, and have they diverted funds from public schools to create a second system of schools? And the second question is whether or not money from that line item, which is supposed to be used for public, non-denominational, secular education, is falling under the exclusive control and use of religious organizations and groups. As I said, to me, it's not a matter of choice. The courts have said they aren't going to direct the state legislature to fix the funding problem in Ohio. And this doesn't fix the problem in Ohio. What it does say is that on the line item that funds Marysville schools, there is $1.7 billion over the next 2 years that is not available to our school district and support of the cost and expenses. Now, whether the legislature does that, I said, I don't know what they're going to decide. But I think sitting here as a board member with a vote that should be cast for the benefit of the public school, of the taxpayers in our community, I think that joining the lawsuit helps to support a possible outcome, because there's no guarantees, a possible outcome that will benefit the property taxpayers in our school district, and it does not preclude parents from making individual choices. It doesn't preclude the state of Ohio having a separately funded system of vouchers, a different line item, because vouchers have never been ruled unconstitutional. The state can provide whatever, but the question that has been raised is whether or not they're putting sufficient funds into education. Are they funding us at a thorough and efficient level? And we sitting here on this board have had to ask our local taxpayers for tax dollars to make up deficiencies from what the state legislature hasn't provided us. And I got tired of that. And I know this has been sitting there for a long time, but I think now's the time for us to say yes, join this lawsuit. Vouchers aren't going to go away. I don't think school choice is going to go away. And I've had my say.
Let's just use this argument, we're going to create a new line item, we're going to fund it with $107 billion. Does that solve our problem? It's coming from the education bucket of money, right? The general revenue fund has a limited resource of income that comes in, and they're allocating. If we create a new line item, it doesn't increase the pile of money for education. If they say you cannot support them, there is no guarantee the General Assembly is going to say, oh, there's more money in our education bucket, and we're going to fund it on the formula. There is no guarantee. And so I just think we need to be clear that if we're selling this as, hey, we're joining this lawsuit because we're going to get more money for the schools, there's also the formula. Let's talk about the formula. Marysville is considered a wealthy district, and we talked about this in our levy meetings, how we've been on the guarantee on the formula, or we've not received as increases while other districts are getting more money, is because our local tax effort is relatively low. So if the state said we're going to increase the dollars that are allocated, we still could be in a position because of our local wealth factor where we still have to ask our tax dollars, our local taxpayers for money. I hope not, but there's still that formula aspect that it doesn't mean every district will receive new money. There's no guarantee. What we're going to do is we just fought very hard to secure tax dollars for our district. While this is only $1,100 or $11,000, I'd rather invest that in our people, in our community, engaging with keep it here, because that's a safer bet than applying it to this lawsuit for however many years it will take. You should call the question.
Can we have a vote?
Yes.
No.
No.
No. Motion fails. Okay, next item is motion to approve the Ohio Public Education Appreciation Week proclamation. Whereas Ohio education is established in the Ohio Constitution, which provides that the state will secure a thorough and efficient system of common schools throughout the state, thus demonstrating the commitment of Ohio citizens to make provisions for students to obtain a public education. Whereas public schools equip young Ohioans with both practical skills and broader intellectual abilities, giving them hope for the access to a productive future. Whereas public schools are community linchpins, bringing together adults and children, educators and volunteers, business leaders and elected officials in a common enterprise. Whereas Ohio Public Education Appreciation Week celebrates public education, honoring individuals who make a difference in ensuring every child receives a quality education, and recognizing the importance of public education has in our community. Now, therefore, we serving on the Marysville Board of Education do hereby proclaim November 16th to the 22nd, 2025 as the observance of the Ohio Public Education Appreciation Week.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on this?
I know we just had a debate here about choice. However, please know that I'm a graduate of Marysville schools. Because of public education and educators like Dick Smith and others in our district, I was a kid who was in foster care, credit deficient in my freshman year, and because of coaches and teachers and public education, the services provided here in Marysville, was able to take that AP government class in my junior year, able to graduate, able to become a semi-successful adult, right? And public education can be and should be the great equalizer, no matter where you start off, no matter what your background is. And we still have a duty to fight for education, for public education, with our local taxpayers and our legislators at the Ohio General Assembly by making sure there's opportunities for all students, but making sure that they know the work that our teachers are doing day in, day out, and fund it appropriately.
All right, any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, could we have a vote?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes. All right, now we're moving on to the treasurer CFO items. Can I have a motion to approve all treasurer CFO action items?
So moved?
I'll second.
Todd, would you like to share anything?
Sorry about that. Normal monthly financial items, so I won't go into that unless there's any questions. The only thing I would point out that's different than normal, we've got our PNC rebate on there, similar to if you use your own personal credit card and you get points. We do that with a PNC card. We do that targeted to save money with this rebate. So the rebate for this year was almost $5,700. And then also, there's a resolution to approve Omni and TSACG as for our compliance services for our 403B plan. This isn't a financial item because there's no cost associated with it, but for compliance purposes, we're required to have an entity do this, and our current entity is getting out of that business. So this is a new group that's going to come in, and they'll do this for us for no cost.
Okay. Any further discussion? Seeing none, can we have a vote?
Mr. Smith?
Yes?
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson?
Yes.
Ms. Savage?
Yes. Motion carries. On to the superintendent items. I need a motion to approve the following item with Jermaine Ferguson abstaining from the vote. Approve Anita Roca as a volunteer.
I'll motion.
I'll second.
And any discussion? Seeing none, could we have a vote?
Yes.
Yes?
Abstain.
Yes. Thank you for the volunteering.
Yes.
Next item, approve the superintendent's action, all superintendent action items. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Dr. Howard, would you like to discuss?
Yes, thank you, Board. We have our monthly listing of HR items before you this evening. There's a listing of volunteers. There's 120 identified. So grateful for those individuals to put the time and energy in these buildings. We have 2 early graduate requests from Marysville High School, and there are 4 interns or student teacher field placements to approve. There are 10 overnight trips. We have 4 girls wrestling, 3 boys wrestling, a bowling, a cheer, and a theatrical arts trip. That is it, Board. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
I would like to mention Judy Rubidoux, Mill Valley teacher who is retiring. She has been a long-term teacher in our school district, and she will be greatly missed. But wish her well in retirement at the end of the year. She's not allowed to retire until the year ends. So.
That is right.
I was gonna, you stole my comment. Obviously, I was friends with her son Chris back in my days in high school, and that's how I met her as a kind of a parent. Then seeing her as my daughter's own teacher last year, she's a great asset to this district and a treasure, and wish her best in retirement at the end of the year.
Absolutely. Any other discussion? Let's go ahead and vote.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes. And now we're going to move on to comments and questions from board members. Can we start with Mr. Smith?
I may have done too good a job as a teacher in inspiring young debaters. And I think tonight we had an opportunity to make some decisions on a financial basis that come along once in a while. I know Marysville Land Company has other avenues that they are approving, but I really think that we took a step to make a significant positive difference for the financial benefit for our school district. And I think that all of us on the board, however we vote on every issue, constantly keep the students and the health of our school district and the benefit to particularly the kids in the school district at the forefront of every decision that we make. And while we may see things through a different lens, our goal and our perspectives are shared. So,
Matt?
I just want to thank all the staff for the extra time they've been putting in the classroom and conference time. I know that's a hectic time of year for them. And then to the staff and students, Thanksgiving's coming up. Thankful for all of them, and enjoy some time away from work and or school.
Jermaine?
First, I just want to kind of go back and reflect on the Employee of the Month, Dee Brown, and it was impressive to see there was a whole crowd of individuals supporting her, and I think that's a beautiful thing, and obviously it's a testament to her contribution to the school district, and I hope that our actions as a board and the administration and the community every teacher feels supported and kind of that warm hug, I guess, as was visualized here. I think that's one of our jobs is to make sure that every employee feels connected, every student feels like special as well. So I just thank you to Dee Brown that was a very special moment that we all shared here, and something that seems to be like a routine thing that we do. AI, the only thing I do with AI is play around with Copilot and see if it can help me with my outbox, and it's not great. It's still a work in progress, but obviously there's some. We are in the human intelligence development business, right? But AI can be a good tool, and hopefully it opens up opportunities. I'm not going to say that I'm welcoming it with open arms. I think as an education provider, we need to embrace it, but I am also hesitant, maybe a little scared about what the future of workforce looks like. What that looks like for everyone's livelihood, because I think every person is meant to work, to create on their own. We all have a spirit and we all have essence to our work, and I hope AI doesn't replace that. But we can't lead in fear. We have to kind of see what the tools are and be curious, and it's innovate, collaborate, and inspire. And so how do we use these tools to not lose our inspiration, not lose our human collaboration, but also stay on their or to continue to innovate. And so I think that's the challenge in education, the workforce, and society as a whole. And so I look forward to that, and hopefully we can stay curious and learn. So thank you for that presentation, and I'm looking forward to the next steps.
Thank you to our presenters. There's a couple things that I wanted to call out. The National Business Honor Society had their induction ceremony, and Chad Hoffman from Richwood Bank was there to speak, and I heard raves and raves about that. I've attended that for several years. That is a very dynamic organization, and there's all kinds of very self-driven young people in that group. It's very enlightening to go and talk with them. You mentioned the FFA, the STEM Solutions Challenge at Early College High School, which is always wonderful. So I'm kind of interested when they wrap that up, when you come in and you can sit down and listen to what solutions students have come up to local business community problems. It's very interesting to go listen to that. And then our competition cheer team is once again going to nationals in Florida. So very, very proud of all of our students for all their achievements. So I think that's it for the evening.
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
I'll third.
Yes.
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 Yes.